Hey, my name is Deborah Winters. Welcome to my YouTube channel, a place where you will hear conversations with ordinary people telling their extraordinary stories. Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Their Stories. Our guest for the second part 2 is Ray Winterhalt, and we left off last time, Ray. You disclosed that you had a pornography addiction.
Yeah.
Which started around 12 or 13. So we're just gonna, you need to listen to the first part and hear all the good news and the good things that God was doing, and then
and that's a good point too. Like, God, your addiction or your struggle doesn't stop God from doing the good things. He's that powerful.
Oh, that is so good.
Like, you can't stop him from doing what he's going to do.
Yes.
And I think people like throw in the towel too quickly and give up, and God's like, well, you don't know how I'm going to use this down the line.
Yes.
You don't know what I'm going to do. We can't see all things. So, and that's where the trust in the Lord comes in.
Yeah.
So
pick up.
So 12, 13 years old, I think that's probably when I first saw any type of pornographic image. Mm-hmm. And it was, like it grabs you. I think like anything that's so like,
visual thing.
So visual.
Mm-hmm.
It catches a young person.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there I was like I mentioned this, I think off camera, I was a latchkey kid for a little bit there, a little portion of my life, but I was by myself, often,
unsupervised,
mm-hmm. and that's not
had access to the internet.
But back then, like, this was like early 2000s, I guess, like the 2010 range. Pornography was around, but like how accessible it was, I don't think was realized yet. So, and my mom, once again, was a single parent, and
she had no clue.
And like a lot of parents,
Now, did you? Was there some shame with that, or you didn't know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. There's a ton of shame. Yeah.
But initially,
yeah,
was there shame, or you were just curious?
Oh, initially, no. Yeah, I was like, that's a good question. I don't think I've ever thought about initially if there was shame. Probably not, because it's just like, you're kind of like, oh, it's there, it's just a thing you do, and then you grow, and if you're growing and especially in the church, right, and you're learning the word, you're like, oh, this isn't a, like,
this is not acceptable.
This is not this is not acceptable, nor is this healthy. Like, this is not a good thing. And then you're kind of like, I don't want to, like, that's like, it's a very like taboo. Like, we don't, like, at least back then, it was like, we don't talk about it. It's not really.
And who would you talk to about it?
Right. And yeah, and that's the thing. It's, you don't want to tell your mom. As a kid.
Right.
And so. I think that's the thing. It's such a, for me, and that's the thing with everybody. There's shame around it. There's probably some guilt, and all this stuff, which really is a hindrance to finding help or having a healthy discussion about it. You don't want
anyone to know.
Right. And so I think that's the thing with young people now. Like, we should be talking about this openly and consistently.
Right.
And not making it shameful, saying like, hey, don't live this lifestyle because this is what can happen and what can lead to, but there should never be any condemnation, I guess, because that's not the Lord.
Right.
So
did it get progressively worse?
Yeah.
Now, how long did that take till you were just deep immersed in it?
Oh, deep immersed, probably. I mean,
did it take long?
Years.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'd say probably 5-6 years.
Okay.
The discovery of everything that was on the internet.
Yes.
Right. And so that happened, and you've heard the other part of my story, everything that was happening that everybody could see. This is what was happening.
So we're having two lives here.
Oh yeah, two kind of separate, right?
Wow.
Two separate lives of one, like, living for the Lord, the good things he's doing, but like internally just in a very isolated, dark place.
Was the pornography all consuming, or were you able to compartmentalize and set it to the side?
Yes, right.
Right.
So I think what people think is that like it's just
it's always there. That tape is running.
What's the word?
I don't know.
Debilitating. What's the word?
Debilitating?
Debilitating. There we go. English. Right.
I love words.
Yeah.
Debilitating.
Debilitating. And
so it did not. It was not. You could function.
Not initially. Eventually, it can be, and eventually it can get to the point, and I've experienced where it is like
you personally.
Mm-hmm. Where it's like it's constantly.
It's just rolling.
Yeah, and it can affect. It can affect your focus, just from day-to-day things, and you eventually realize that it's affecting, how women view guys, how guys view women, like relationships, all of that, all those things, even emotions outside of things that don't have to do like pornography, like just more agitated and angered more easily. So like
wow.
Really that's how it becomes all encompassing. That's what I discovered and I experienced, for sure. And that was...
Were you quick-tempered with it? Just, it caused you to be quick-tempered?
Yeah, I would say even you have less of a... and I do believe because of what you're right, it's why the Bible says, the word says guard your eyes.
Right. And guard your heart.
And guard your heart, guard yourself.
Yeah.
just guard.
Yes.
So, I think definitely more quick-tempered because there was no filter on what I was letting in, and then therefore... there was no filter with what was coming out either, and I would say that could definitely be seen.
That was exhausting, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
I mean, you had this Christian persona over here, and then you had this dark side over here.
Sure.
And to keep those separate.
Yeah.
And not let one not let that bleed into your public life, I guess.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, pornography is different than like.
You don't have to whisper.
Pornography is different than like drugs, right? Like it's not something that you can. It's here. It's all here.
Yeah.
So you're.
I mean, wow.
Yeah, you're walking around with that mindset.
This camera going nonstop. It's like film.
Yeah.
And I've heard about the imprinting your mind, and at some point in time, all that camera that has to be erased.
Yeah. Like
you clear the disc.
Yes. Yeah, and all of this, of course, is pornography, drugs, alcohol, whatever the addiction is. It's like kind of what we talked about. There's a root to it.
Yeah, we were talking off camera.
Yeah.
I was listening to Will Hart. He has a podcast. It's called Iris Global, affiliated with Heidi Baker in Mozambique. But he was interviewing, and I forget one of the guys, but they were talking about, clearly he's a pastor. Mm-hmm. I wish I could think of his name. Anyway, some guy had asked for prayer for the pornography issue. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, we can pray and you can get deliverance from that, but because it's an addiction, we have to find the root, because you can be free from pornography, but that addiction will surface in alcohol, substance abuse. It will find a way to rear its ugly head, so to speak.
Exactly. So I think that leads into eventually my recovery journey. So mind you, there was nothing for 10 plus years, right?
Nothing as far as
like seeking help, really.
Okay, you were just immersed in it, and it was your life.
Yeah, going to church.
Where were you then in 10 years? I mean, so can you take us up to that point?
I would have been in Syracuse. I would have been in Oklahoma when I went to.
At 10 years, where were you at the end of that?
You would have been living in.
Were you at SEU? Were you in LA?
I was in LA. Yeah. I'd have been in LA from 13 to...
For 2 years you were in LA.
Yeah, so let's say 13 to 23, and then, even... But I would say around that time when I was in LA, that's when I started, all right, something has to change.
Well, that's where I wanted to go with this.
Something has to give.
What was the realization? What was the aha moment or the awakening?
Yeah, well... it's totally a God. Like, I kid you not, the way God has shown me things in my life is blatantly clear. Like there's no discrepancy, no doubt.
This is God for sure.
This is God. And I think a big wake up call was wanting more from life than just career, I think, and really being in a city like Los Angeles that is, most people that you probably went on the street, if I was like, oh, you look at porn, yeah, it's fine, like everybody does it,
right.
There's no issue with it,
right.
But being in a place where I was still going to a church and that was my community, and finally discovering books and different resources that were kind of like, oh, this is, I remember reading Levi Lusko's book, what was it, Swipe Right, I think.
Okay.
And that was a big, I'll never forget that. I read that book I think like 3 times in like the course of a week.
Now, was it written for pornography?
It was
addiction?
Not, I wouldn't say it was written for pornography addiction. I think it was written for, but it was definitely focused on that.
Okay.
That was part of it. I think the end goal was right, because the end goal is not to just stop the addiction. The end goal for a believer is to get closer to Christ. That's the point. That's the end goal that eventually I realized that's where I want to reach, right? I want to be I want to be in unity.
You want to be free from all that. Right. That's a bondage.
Right. You want to be in unity with the Holy Spirit.
Right.
And being able, and you can't hear clearly either. There's no clarity. So that was the biggest thing. And I would say there were different discovery moments along the way.
Right. Right.
But yeah, so reading that book, I remember walking into the YMCA that I would end up working at for my interview, and they had this room that was kind of like I guess they called it a chapel, and I was really surprised to see
at the YMCA.
Yeah, in Los Angeles, and I was, and like totally like
there's hope.
There's hope. Hope. Yeah. I don't know if it's still there. It was there last I saw, but I had recently, definitely was delving into the Word more during this time, and what is it? I can tell you what it says. So here, open your Bibles. Flip to this. Right, my grace is sufficient for you, for power is perfected in weakness.
So you got to say it again. And do you know the scripture reference? It's
2 Corinthians. No.
It's okay.
You
can get them direct. I mean, at least there.
Yeah.
So give us. Say it again.
So yes, my grace is sufficient for you, for power is perfected in weakness, and that came at a time where I think I was like probably at the end of my rope. And
I will say that 2 Corinthians 6:9 talks about all these sins, and if you live in this lifestyle, you won't inherit the kingdom of God. So maybe around the 6th chapter,
I will.
Maybe
I can run to my car and tell you. I have it written down in there. I'll go off camera for a second. But yeah, so I can't believe I'm blanking out on that. But yeah,
it's okay.
My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is perfected in your weakness.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, and that was and so I walked into that kind of this chapel area, I'd say, that they had, and that was written on the wall.
No, it was not.
It was.
I mean, like the scripture was on the wall.
Yep, my God. And I have no idea why that verse was to this day. Like I remember asking.
He was clearly speaking. Loud.
Yes, and so the idea that and that was I would say that was the beginning of the recovery journey.
Okay.
I wouldn't say like, boom, stop looking at pornography right there. I would say that was the beginning of like, okay, so you're doing something, God, in my weakness. Like your power is being perfected, like a diamond out of coal, sort of, right? Yes. Pressure and heat.
Right. Right.
And so from there, I actively started trying to find, and most of the time was on my own. And so
working through this on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow. Okay.
Because still there was a lot of guilt and shame.
Yeah.
Centered around this, that I had held on to it for so long.
The unforbidden thing.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people fool themselves in thinking that they're the only ones going through it.
Right.
Like, why can't other guys just shake it, or like, why is it just a common thing for them? But for me, it's like, and it goes back to what's the root, right?
Right.
And so for me,
there is a root.
There is a root. And so for me...
But you didn't know at the time you had to come to the terms with that at some point in time.
Yes. And so time goes on. I'm kind of going through it by myself. I go back home to Syracuse, right? This is when I would have been...
In California, you decided to be an attorney.
Yeah, I wanted to, yes.
And you went back to study.
To study, yeah.
Okay.
And so during that time, right, I became more confident and more... The shame was subsiding at this point, I would say. I think that's the first thing. The shame has to get out. The shame has to go. The guilt has to go.
Had you repented at this time and said, God, I'm just so sorry, I need help? What had you done?
Oh, I was repenting every day.
Oh, for 10 years?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Oh,
I'm so sorry. Then you go right back to
100%. 100%. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. So that's how it began. But
well, the good news is you were repenting.
Yes.
You were sorry, but it just had a stronghold in your life.
Yeah.
There was a foothold, and it was hard.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very much so.
On to Syracuse, sorry.
No, you're good. So back to... So I'm in Syracuse, and I decided... to get, like, serious counseling help. Like, serious help.
How old were you? Help me. I can't...
So I probably would have been 23 years old at this time, 23, 24 maybe.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
at this time, no one still knew that you hadn't had a conversation.
It was more out there. I'm sure I had said some things, maybe posted something like on Facebook at one time.
Oh, really?
Been like, hey, like, this is a struggle, like, this is real, people go through this.
Oh.
But maybe not have given, definitely not the full journey. And everything that had transpired. Okay. And so, I actually came down to Florida and went through a very intensive, like, week-long therapy session with an amazing counselor.
Really?
I wasn't a Christian counselor, but...
so how did you find the counselor?
From someone else who was married and had his first kid at the time. He was like, I was just open with him. I would just remember being.
And this is in Syracuse.
This is in Syracuse, and he was like, hey, this is the person that I went to, and they really.
So he
really helped
found
me.
Freedom from that.
He found a very great start to it.
Yes.
And he was continuing the progress.
Okay.
But better than anything that had been up to that point.
Yes.
And
so you came to Florida. So you came to Florida to go to SEU, but was that in conjunction with the council?
I think that's the no. So,
sorry.
No, you're good. I went to SEU, 2013 to 2015.
Right. The first time.
First time. This would have been 2017 that I came back down for this week, and I didn't even tell anybody that I was down here for.
Oh.
Like I think I maybe told one or two people that I was down here.
Okay.
For that specific purpose.
Okay, all right.
And during that week is when the first time I think I addressed the root of the issue, which was, multiple things. One being like...
You're going to share the root with us?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Needing validation.
Mm-hmm. Not having a father in your life had to be huge.
That was like probably a starting point, right?
Yeah.
Didn't see the model of a man. Didn't see what that looked like. Didn't see what a healthy relationship looked like growing up.
To no fault of your mom's.
No.
She was doing all that she could do.
No, she raised me right.
Yes.
Because she raised me to love
in
Jesus.
church.
And love
yes,
the Lord.
love her.
I am who I am today because of
my
mother. So,
my goodness.
100%. Yeah, I don't hold it. There's no blame there.
Right.
But the that neglect of a father, that kind of like, it wasn't even abandonment. It was just like there was this kind of gap of space that needed to be filled because God intended there to be two parents, so something filled that. I had to see like, so this is how a man looks at a woman. I got it from went to public school. Pornography
and
was fun.
Internet.
And the internet, which
this
is a terrible place.
Like. Don't do that.
Place. Go to church. Bring your kids to church. Sorry, I feel like I'm pointing and I'm getting really close to the camera.
Family Worship Center is a great place.
Family Worship Center. Shameless plug. Go there. So yeah, that not having a father, needing someone to probably affirm as a man, find peace in that. That is what the gap pornography filled, right?
Yeah.
The satisfaction, the validation, all of that stuff, and it definitely started because one, not having a father, two, times of being by yourself. Like I think there's a difference between solitude and isolation as well, right?
Yes.
Isolating I would not say is the healthiest thing unless you have COVID, right? But solitude is, I seek solitude with the Lord all the time to hear from Him. So I think
and that's healthy.
That's healthy.
So the counselor identified.
Yeah. Yeah.
1, 2, 3. I mean.
Oh yeah.
No father. So what were the other markers?
I mean, kind of just what I was saying. Like no father, needing validation,
and being alone, unsupervised,
beating myself up, and really like.
Did you have no self-esteem?
No, I wouldn't say I didn't have self-esteem. I would just say like you wouldn't see, like everything was in the shadows, right? Everything was in the dark. So what I mean by that is I would be self-deprecating behind the scenes.
Okay.
Like I'm not good enough for this, because for mostly like relationships, like I don't deserve to be with this person. I don't deserve to be with that person. Okay. Really just kind of holding myself back from like a healthy relationship with which God wanted. Got it. So those type of things, and that was what so and just any other type of like shame that I was holding on to, any type of like we said, the root of the problem, that was addressed during that time.
So a week-long intensive, was it like counseling hours every day? Every
day from, I think it was Monday to Friday. And it was 8
The same person?
Yep, 8 hours.
I mean, how intense is that?
Yeah, I was emotionally and physically drained.
So where were you staying? With a friend? If you were here for a week?
Yeah, I was in a hotel. Yeah, so just that intensive, the 8 hours a day for those 5 days.
It was exhausting.
It was, but I think healing is exhausting.
And it was a non-Christian guy.
Female. Yeah.
Female.
Yeah.
Non-Christian.
Yeah. And so that was really that was a core turning point for me, in terms of recovery, and because I'd finally addressed the root issues and talked to someone about the root issues, and someone had just listened and comforted and also gave solutions to becoming a healthy human being. So
what was did she put you on a plan, or did you have to come up with a plan? Because that led to...
Yeah, I wouldn't say she put me on a plan, and I wouldn't say even after that looking at pornography stopped. I would say that, and along the way, I should say I would, let me go back to a place where I was probably looking at pornography, right? This is probably 6 years, or maybe like 4 years into like discovering pornography, 6-7 times a day, right?
Okay.
To the journey of slowly, like, okay, now it's once a day. It's right before I go to bed. And that was consistent for years.
Was it? Okay. Yeah. Okay.
To then after this, it was like, okay, maybe once every other day.
Okay. There was a gradual.
So that's the thing. I think I do believe that God can heal in an instant. Mm-hmm. But also, it's a slow fade.
It's a process.
So the initial, like, falling into it, it doesn't happen like, oh, boom, pornography, you're addicted. Right. It's like
it's a gradual.
It's also a gradual healing process.
Yes,
because you're dealing with so much, and I don't think it's possible for a human to deal with everything that fast. I think our brains would be fried. Our emotions would be fried. Mm-hmm. And so did that for, I'm trying to think, yeah, so that was that week, and then
you went back to Syracuse.
Went back to Syracuse, and then shortly after that, got the job as an RD.
Okay.
And so, and even during that time, it was still definitely a struggle. But I would say probably 2 years into being down here again as an RD, so this is 2018, I came in, and all this time I was still doing different things for recovery, right? Still healing, whether it was calling that counselor, whether it was talking to different counselors, that, going to churches, like being in men's groups, doing whatever I could.
Was it out there to be discussed, or were you still hiding, keeping it under the lid? And
no, I would openly talk about it.
You would? Okay.
I mean, I wasn't going out there like telling
every
people.
street corner,
right? But no, definitely wasn't on video telling people about. But it eventually led to me discovering Celebrate Recovery. I'm trying to remember how I heard of Celebrate Recovery. I think it was through a Christian counselor that I had met, maybe at a church event or something like that.
So a friend of mine has gone through the program, and I don't know, I think it's the same thing, but he has coins.
Yeah.
Like he has his 3-year coin chip for being free from alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. Do you have that coin as well?
I didn't. So I actually I didn't collect the coins. I wouldn't go up every time because I just, part of it, that's my bad. I should have kept track better. But so you take the first chip, you get a blue chip, and that verse, "My grace is sufficient for you, for power is perfected."
Is it on the chip?
It's on the chip.
Oh my!
So kind of came full circle there.
Yes, it did.
And so I got involved in Celebrate Recovery. That hands down was the thing that eventually led to what we call sobriety.
Yes.
And that's for whether
is that a common term for any addiction is sobriety?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I did, and I still go to CR.
I was going to ask you still attend those meetings?
Yeah. And
now they have it weekly, or
they do. So the way the program works is there's one meeting at least here in the one that I attend. There's one meeting on a Saturday, which is very much like a church service, worship.
Wow.
The pastor either gives a message or a testimony.
Really?
And then we go to open church.
And you still go?
Oh, yeah.
Do you go like every week?
I try to. I don't go on Saturdays anymore. I have they have the 12-step study, which is like after you've been on Saturdays for a little bit, you understand what CR is. Hey, now we're going to go in depth, and we're going to really talk about what causes our issues, right? We're not just going to share about our week anymore. We're not just going to have this open share discussion.
You're going to dig deep.
We're not going to just confess about what we've done. We're going for the root. And so I went through a 12-step study and did that. And it was hands down one of the best things I ever did. And it was, I think, shortly after that I actually came to Family Worship Center. So God moved in that season. There was a move. But I think the thing is, we often, when you get to that point in the recovery process, there's the practical. Okay, I'm like, because I still have a sponsor, still someone that I call and like.
You do?
And, yeah, and like he has my complete trust, and like he fills me, prays for me. Older, seasoned guy in life.
Yeah.
Which I think we all need.
Yes, we do.
Someone seasoned who can speak life into us and give us sound wisdom. And so I still talk to him, and even more so than that, once I went through those step studies while I was working at Southeastern, I started hosting what we call porn talk events.
Really?
And so because
on campus?
Yeah, because I was becoming more open about talking about it.
Yes, and it's called porn talk. I love this.
It was, and I'd have students. I mean, I had one guy in particular come to me and say, "Hey, I want to do this event," and it was something that had been on my heart, confirmation from the Lord, and we started it. And I think there were two or three different events, but they even took off beyond what I imagined, and now like they actually have professors that'll talk, and people that are like doctors coming in and talking about like the psychological effects and the physical effects, and
That is amazing.
And so these are things I learned on my own that I wish I had learned in school.
Yes.
Now they're talking about it in a very healthy manner at
and
Southeastern.
helping, because
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
do you know what the
Yeah.
statistic is in church as far as pornography? Pastor Sean's talked about it, but I mean, it's huge.
I think it's 9 out of 10 guys.
No.
Yeah, it's very
9 out of 10.
Yeah, it's up there.
That's crazy.
It's up there. Most I would.
That's a little scary.
I would say
when I'm sitting in church.
well, I mean, but and I can't tell you the statistics on women, but they have grown over the years too. Like
yeah.
There's this misconception that guys are visual, women are also just as visual. Studies are showing. So it's this very. It was once taboo, but once you bring light to the
just
darkness.
Pull the Band-Aid off of it and expose it to light, because light dispels darkness.
Dispels darkness, exactly. So that's what is
that
so God used that. I've had numerous students now that come to CR themselves, and it's truly amazing what God has done. But it took submission. I think that's the thing, realizing, and that's kind of
coming clean with it. And just the relief there has to be attached to just telling somebody.
Oh yeah, and that's the beauty of CR. Like you're always like saying, right, it's our hurts, our habits, and our hang-ups.
Hurts, habits, and hang-ups. 3 H's.
3 H's.
Okay.
And we don't just stop it. Like even if you've had like an extended amount of sobriety, right? Like what I've had, and, there is still like things that now I'm going to deal with this aspect now that I'm not so entrenched in it, because I've become sober from pornography.
Right.
I can now
focus on something else. Yes.
Some other things, whether maybe it's I'm trying to think. The need for validation, or maybe it's like commitment or consistency and complacency. It's these things that we get to focus on, and then because of that, like God has opened up opportunity for me, right? The prayer meeting, right? And that to me, that is the biggest thing that has come out of this is the need for Christ, the satisfaction of being kind of like what Psalm 63 talks about, where David Psalm 63 where David talks about his fellowship with the Lord, and that's really the only place that he's satisfied now, just in prayer and in worship, and it's just that is the only thing that satisfies his soul, and that because God used evil for good, I sought the Lord. And I ran after him. And
that's one thing, is you can either run to God or run away from God.
Right.
And so running to God is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And you can find peace in that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the most beautiful
thing
in the world.
And healing in that. And joy and hope, right?
Yes. So all the story is to say, and I think it's anybody's story.
This is a great story. Thanks, Ray, for sharing.
My pleasure. Yeah, we all end up in... If you're a believer, right? For a believer, I can only speak for those who call Christ King. That's the goal. That's the end goal of it all, is just to be so unified and one with Christ. And find... Because no matter what else... Because in this world, we will have trouble. That's a guarantee. We will have trouble. But take heart. You can bet your life on it. You can bet your life. I've had trouble. But take heart. I have overcome the world.
And does. I mean, this is life. It's a journey.
Yeah.
And I've said this so many times, but you're always going to be faced with the opportunity to fail or to make a poor decision.
Right.
I mean, it's out there, because the enemy is like a roaring lion.
Right. Yes.
He's wanting to devour you.
Yes.
Steal, kill, and destroy.
Yes.
Right?
But I have come.
I have overcome. Yes. that you might have life and have it more abundantly, right?
And so that's the point. And so now I'm, as you see, I'm very open with my journey.
It's a beautiful thing.
And with the struggle, because the enemy prowls about like a roaring lion, and it's just a distraction. He's like,
he's this little, and he's here in your ear. Yes. I mean, it's so Crazy.
But through those struggles, right? That's where the testimony comes from.
Yes.
By the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony.
Yes.
And so the lion, the actual lion, when he roars, it's clear.
Yes.
It's clear about who
he is the lion.
He is the lion
of the tribe of Judah.
Yeah.
Oh,
so it's
yes.
It's been quite the life led already in many experiences, but that is one thing that at no point did the Lord ever leave me or forsake me. And yeah, it's been quite the journey, and like there are resources. I think that's a big thing. Like there are resources out there.
There is
for
help.
people. Yeah, and you are not the only person.
You're not alone.
You're not alone. And it's not something to be ashamed about, but God also doesn't want you to stay in that place.
Right.
Like you shouldn't just be like, oh well, there's no guilt and condemnation, and then keep living the way you're living. No, you should run after the Lord once you know, because there's the way the CR pastor describes it. He says it's like you're on two different planets. By that point, there's more life than just not looking at pornography. There's beyond. He's like, okay, now that you've turned from this, he said, I want to do something with you. Like I want to lead a prayer. You lead a prayer group, right? I have a heart for young adults at Family Worship Center. Like I want them to come out. I want them to be a part of prayer, because I believe we're the next.
Because 9 out of 10 are struggling.
Right. Right.
Gosh.
So we need to pray. To pray.
But just think about this. All these years of this challenge, this addiction, and you are now pouring into others and helping others.
Yeah.
God had a plan.
He did.
And so you're serving. Your thing was you wanted to serve.
Yeah.
And you're serving now at Family Worship Center.
Yeah. And God just has opened, even other doors outside of just like Family Worship Center, outside of like my spiritual walk and my focus on the Lord. If we seek His face and desire to dwell in the house of the Lord, that's where promotion comes from. Like promotion comes from the Lord.
Yes, it does.
So I've seen success even outside of that, whether it's finishing my master's degree, whether it's like the next step for me, I'm going to be joining the law enforcement. That's the next thing.
Oh, tell them what you're doing.
Yeah, so no longer resident director.
No longer RD at South
Eastern. Just finished that. Going into law enforcement, and I'm being sponsored.
What does that mean?
So the police academy, you can either pay for it yourself, or agency. So like Tampa, Polk, Polk County Sheriffs or Lakeland Police.
They can sponsor you?
They can sponsor you.
And they pay for your education?
They pay for it, and then they start paying you, depending on the agency, they'll pay for your, they'll start paying you like salary. Like they'll start paying
while you're in school?
Yep, and you'll get the benefits.
And how long does that take to go to school?
6 months.
6 months, okay.
So like favor, and God's like help, like with the right connections, even in other areas of life, like there's still political desire in me to some extent.
Yes.
And even, I might save that for another video, but there's been connections made there as well. And like with people that are God-fearing Christ lovers. So it's been good. It's been
we're going to do another. He's piqued my interest. We're going to do another story on that too.
Well, I'll tell you when for that one though. But that's my story. That's my journey. And I
had no idea that was your journey.
So
this is such a common thing in our society.
It really is.
Sorry.
No, so I would just encourage what do you
want to tell them?
Go to if whether you go to Family Worship Center or not, come to Family Worship Center.
Shameless plug.
But also please feel free to reach out to me.
To Ray. Winterhalt.
Ray Winterhalt.
Call the office. The church can connect you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or come to his prayer group on Sunday afternoon, 5 o'clock.
Yes, 5 to 6.
Another shameless plug.
But it's not for me. It's honestly not for me. Like I have a passion for like wanting to see people recover and see recover, but like find their true purpose and their true calling in the Lord, because at the end of the day, it's all for His glory.
Build the kingdom.
Build the kingdom. Like, let's be about kingdom business.
There are so many people that are living under the weight of sin and addiction, and there is a better way.
Yeah, there's a better way. It's Jesus.
He is the way.
Yeah,
right.
That's it. That's all it is. And I think we tend to really overcomplicate life sometimes.
Yeah.
We tend to get so caught up in our own baggage, our own garbage, and we try to, there's so much theology out there, but one of my favorite things of late that God has been speaking to me is, like, there was the was it the pool of Bethsaida? Bethsaida?
No,
Am I saying
pool
wrong?
of Bethsaida. I mean, no, that you got me.
The guy who was crippled.
He was by the pool.
The guy who was crippled.
What is that?
He was sitting there for decades, and and Jesus comes along.
Oh my gosh!
And he's like, "Do you want to?" All he asked him was like,
Bethesda. I had to get it.
Yes.
Pool of Bethesda. Okay, go ahead.
He was like, He's like, "Do you want to be healed?" And the guy's like, "I have no one to carry me to the water." Jesus is like, "Do you want to be healed?"
I mean, the question is.
Yeah, and so if the answer is yes, then it's fully seeking Him, because it's we don't find recovery by focusing on the problem. We find recovery by focusing on the solution. So
that's good.
That's it. So.
Okay, then we're gonna end this story, because he has another story. That's for another time. But thank you for joining us. I typically try to lead, if they don't know Jesus, to lead them in the salvation prayer.
Sure.
So you can do that, or I can. Sorry, the UPS guy just backing away.
Thankful for UPS.
Yeah, grateful.
Yeah.
So, are you comfortable leading? If not, I don't mind.
Yeah, you can lead it, because I actually haven't said it in a while, so I don't want to say it.
So I'm going to tell him and tell you that.
Okay.
It's no big deal. It's an easy thing to say. It's not a formal thing. Yeah. You just, first of all, you recognize that you're a sinner, and Jesus, I'm a sinner. I have messed up. Mm-hmm. I just messed up yesterday. This morning, I'm living in sin, and I ask you to come into my heart. I ask you to forgive me of wrongdoing. Yes, we're going to wait for them. They're leaving? Great. So that's how easy it is. I mean, this is not a formal situation. So forgive me of my sins. Come into my heart. Be Lord over my life. Make me clean.
Yeah.
Heal all those things that need to be healed, like with your situation with the root causes. Heal those, the rejection and the lack of self-worth, validation needs. Just cleanse me, Father. Bring healing to my mind, my heart, and my emotions. Make me like new. And just be the Lord over my life.
Yeah.
And it's that easy. You can do it right there where you are. And he just takes us as we are, as I am, as you are. He takes us as we are. Yeah.
Amen.
Is that right? As we are? Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much. And you have a wonderful day. And we will see you the next time. Thank you.